Tanina ni no, tanina ni no, tanina no, tanina ni no, tanina ni no. Oh, anginanto lapha esandleni ngizinga ingosi anginanto lapha esandleni nalapha emhlabeni. Oh, tanina no, tanina ni no, tanina ni no, tanina no, tanina ni no, tanina ni no. Hey, Nkosi ngisize lapha emhlabeni ngizenga ingosi anginanto lapha esandleni nalapha emhlabeni. Hey, oh, anginanto.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to come and share this amazing story. The video clip you just saw was produced by the children, all orphan, vulnerable because of HIV and AIDS in Soweto, South Africa. I'm just waiting for them to set me up with my slides, but I wanted to just tell you a little bit about how I ended up in South Africa and why do I still live in Johannesburg now 18 years. And that is home because of the children that you've seen in the video clip. I just want to share with you, I look like I'm not American, but you hear an American accent, and you probably think I'm from India. But I'm an African American, and I grew up in Compton, California. I grew up in the 1960s and 1970s, where I saw tremendous change happen in my community. I saw my brother go off to fight the Vietnam War. I saw, sitting next to my father, who was born in 1899, the first man land on the moon. And I saw gangs forming, taking over our community. But what I will never forget is my father taught me that education was the most important thing, and that was something no one could ever take away from me. My mother also taught me that I had to feel, I had to bleed, I had to cry for those who were suffering, who were in pain, who needed just somebody to lean on or to have an ear. My father died when I was 11, and it was a traumatic time because my mother had myself and my younger brother and sister, although 5 of my older brothers and sisters were adults at the time. She had to battle to figure out how she was going to take care of us. Fortunately, I stayed in school and excelled, and I had a chance to get an incredible liberal arts education, and then also have an incredible experience to live overseas for the first time in Madrid, Spain, where the cathedrals and the great museums were my classroom. I moved to Washington, D.C., where I worked for both the executive and legislative branches as a young attorney. I also helped to formulate policy, sat on very powerful boards and committees, trying to improve the quality of life for most people. I looked at what worked, a consultative process. involving people, so that the changes that were going to be made were going to be owned by all. And then in 1994, I met a delegation from South Africa, of all places. And after engaging with them, they invited me to come to South Africa. I was a bit puzzled because I didn't know anything about South Africa other than what I heard on the radio, saw on television, and that funny dance I saw down Massachusetts Avenue. And now I know that's called the Toy Toy, meaning they were protesting. And so I said, what possibly could I offer to help this new democracy going through a transformation process? And these were members of the National Assembly in the Parliament, and they said, young man, we have never written legislation. We have never formulated policy. We have never dealt with political parties or committees in the legislature. But you have done all of that, and we need your skills. So in 1995, I went to South Africa to be part of this incredible transformation process. I saw history being made every time you blinked an eye. I helped to put together strategic plans to make sure that the quality of education was for all under the new Rainbow Nation. I also had a chance to meet people from different walks of life from South Africa and all over the world, because people were looking at South Africa as the beacon of hope, of unity, of a Rainbow Nation. I'll never forget this day in December. I took friends who were visiting from New York on a tour of Soweto in particular. I took them to Mandela's house, Desmond Tutu's house. I took them to the Apartheid Museum, the Hector Peterson Museum. And then I also took them into an informal settlement camp, a squatter camp. And so I sat down on the side of the road and allowed them to go and look in the shacks to see how a large percentage of the people who were oppressed by the previous regime were trying to survive in the new South Africa. A little boy came and sat next to me. I looked at him. He looked at me. I said, "Sawubona, Baba." He said, "Yebo." I said, "Unjani." He said, "Ukhona, Baba." We were just greeting. And then he said, "Would you like to see where I live?" I said, "Son, I live here. I'm not a tourist." I looked at him again, but very differently this time, because Thabo was only 11, but he had the eyes of a 45-year-old man. He saw so much. So I followed him and I went into the shack. And when I went into the shack, it was made of tin. The wallpaper was newspaper. There were cracks, and if a heavy rain came, he would be wet. He did everything in that one small room, from bathing in a little plastic tub, from sleeping on a grass mat. And just to show you how small it was, if I stretched my arms, that was his home. He lived alone. After seeing that, I went back out and sat on the curb, and Thabo, my new friend, joined me. I looked at him, he looked at me, and I felt I needed to say something. So I said, "Thabo," by the way, Thabo means hope. "What do you want to do when you get a little older?" And he said, "I just want a normal life. I want a real bed. I want to eat food. And I want to be able to be a child and have fun and not worry about tomorrow." I was overwhelmed. I had never seen such poverty in my life. And I went back home that evening, but I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking of little Thabo and all the Thabos that made up this new South Africa. I remember what my mother taught me, to be concerned, to see those in need as my brothers and sisters. And so I felt I had to go back to the informal settlement area to help him. A few days later, I did go back to Soweto, to the Mandela informal settlement area. But there was no Thabo. The government dismantled the squatter camp. People were scattered all over, and I couldn't find Thabo. I missed my opportunity to be tagged, "You're it." But I'll never forget Valentine's Day. I went back to Soweto wanting to empower one child from grade 7 to 12 and just make sure that they had a quality education, because in South Africa, you pay to go to a public school. You buy your textbooks, your writing materials. There's no yellow bus to come and take you to school. And so I realized in the new South Africa that if we did not take care of the children, what kind of future were we going to create? So I called my mother, and I have 7 brothers and sisters, and they put money into my account, and we were able to educate these 10 children, all orphan because of HIV and AIDS. The approach I used reminded me of growing up in a poor community in Compton, California. I saw lots of people come with solutions and answers. And I did not want to be a missionary. I did not want to be an expert. I did not want to come and solve people's problems. I came as a learner. I came as a servant. I came to say that you young people have assets, you have capabilities, you have strengths, and there's a place for you in the future of this new, incredible country. I asked them to dream. And I asked them to dream big, aim for the stars, and it's okay if you landed on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I also asked them to develop a roadmap, because as a consultant, I helped governments and continental and regional organizations develop strategic plans. So I had the children develop a roadmap to where they wanted to be in the future. And then I helped them to live the dream, the roadmap. Quickly, our numbers grew, and resources started to become available. We had food donated by a grocery store, and that was the only meal the child would eat whenever they were with us. We had to come up with a name for the organization as the numbers grew. We came up with Teboho. Teboho is a Masutu word, and it means, "Thank you, God, for giving us this person." I was saying to God, "Thank you for these beautiful children." And the children were saying, "Thank you, God, for giving us this angel." We established an organization. We put in good corporate governance. We built the capacity of the people within the community to run the organization. We have now seen people from different parts of the world come to visit us, like Wynton Marsalis. Lives have changed. So many lives have changed. I look at our children who go to different schools in the township, and they're the top learners in their school. I look at our teenagers in an area that has a high teen pregnancy rate. For the last 12 years, none of our girls have fallen pregnant. None of our children had a date with the criminal justice system. And we started to take on children much younger, from age 4 all the way up to grade 12. Our children are computer literate. They're model little citizens. They are now today, some of them medical doctors, accountants, engineers, IT specialists, social workers, attorneys, psychologists, and even working as a clerk in a call center, because for the first time, someone is gainfully employed in that household. The caregivers. They come and volunteer. They bring their mops, they bring their brooms, they bring their pots and pans, and they prepare the food that we get donated. Even neighbors who don't have any children start to come. It's amazing to see how people are finding hope in a little miracle that's taking place. How they're starting to take care of children that are not their own, and preparing hundreds of plates of food for children, understanding that we have to prepare our children for a brighter future. Our caregivers, they have started to do some amazing things, move away from social grants and standing in lines for a food parcel. We've helped them to start their own small businesses where they create things like the shirt I'm wearing today. To do the beadwork, and we sell it to people so that they can put food on the table. You'll see in the photograph they knitted scarves to keep our children warm in wintertime. They do an awful lot. My life will never be the same. I could never have a full-time job. I had a job offer to come back to the United States, but I had to turn it down because I have a new home. I have a new family. Over 2,000 children have benefited from our organization. And what I love about the community is that it's not a selfish community. People have shared what they've received from the organization with other children. I'm here today because we just focused on a little corner of the globe, and people from all over started to come and see this little miracle unfold. So we've impacted thousands more. If there was no organization, our children tell us they would be criminals today. Suicide would have been successful. They would have dropped out of school and not value the need of an education. They would not be the first in their families to succeed on so many levels. Our caregivers, they would continue to feel hopeless. They would continue to boil the kettle of water at night, waiting for the children to fall asleep because there's no food in the cupboard. I look at this community, Soweto, over 30 years ago, children took to the streets to fight for education. I look at education in Soweto today, and the supplemental support we offer the children are propelling them to dream beyond their wildest dreams. I look at the future, what can happen for children. And I'm planning to put together an e-learning platform for children to have free education no matter where they are in the world. Because in our communities, we don't always have quality, competent, capable educators. I hope my story encourages you. I hope you see life as a gift, that there are people who need us. And when you go to help, don't help from the mind. Be guided by the heart. Understand that as human beings, we all have assets, capabilities, strengths. We can solve our fundamental human needs ourselves if you create enabling environment. People are now coming to assist, and the children are worth it. I'm standing here today because someone was tagged. They were it. They gave. If not for them, maybe I would have a totally different story. There are many Thabos in the world around us. Different names, different faces, different issues. They are experiencing a vulnerability context. They just need your guidance. They can sort it out. Tag. You're it. Que a la burra.